In the last video, I showed the error in anchoring the 22nd dynasty of Egypt to 945 BC, which was based on the inaccurate synchronism of Shoshenq and Shishak of Egypt. Scholars misidentified Shoshenq as the pharaoh who stole Solomon's riches in 925 BC, according to 2 Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 9. So Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem and took away the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house. He took all. He carried away also the shields of gold which Solomon had made. They matched this event to Shoshenq's campaign in Canaan that took place in his 21st year, which gave them a way to date the 22nd dynasty. Shishak is not Shoshenq. This date is an anchor point in Egyptian chronology. In this video, I want to look at the other three dates or pillars that we use to anchor pharaonic civilization. The first date we will look at, which is undisputed, is 664 BC. This is the date of the sacking of Thebes by Ashurbanipal, who brought an army to Egypt because of a revolt led by Taharqa. We have many sources to confirm this date: Manetho, Berosus, the Assyrian and Babylonian chronicles, the APTTMH, and the Egyptian regnal dates from the monuments. Using 664 BC, we can establish a date for the beginning of the 25th dynasty, which falls between 716 and 712 BC, which would be year 1 of Shabaka. I've already demonstrated how it is wrong to consider 925 BC as being an anchor point due to the error in linking Shoshenq's campaign in his 21st year to this date. In this video, however, I would still like to highlight what this did to the third intermediate period, which relies upon the dating of the 25th dynasty because of 664 BC and their false identification of Shoshenq as Shishak, which is dated to 925 BC. Using these anchor points, Kenneth Kitchen sequentially padded the time in between these dates, despite the fact that we know the 21st and the 22nd dynasties were not chronologically sequential. We have evidence that the burial of Azorkon II of the 22nd dynasty took place before that of King Pusenes the first of the 21st dynasty. On that fact alone, the years allocated to the third intermediate period should be reduced by 140 years. We also have archaeological evidence from the lesser vaults of the Serapeum that historians have artificially overextended the third intermediate period. Let me read a quote from Kitchen. Over 2 centuries earlier, the 21-year reign of the founder of the 22nd dynasty, Shoshenq I, can be set at circa 945 to 924 BC, thanks 1 to his synchronisms with the detailed chronology of Judah and Israel, itself linked closely to a firm Assyrian chronology, and 2 to the series of known regnal years of his successors, which fill up the interval 924 to 712 BC almost completely. He does 2 things here. First, he asserts that we can trust the date of 925 BC for Shishak because of the synchronism between the Bible and Assyrian dating, which I agree is true. We can trust the date for Shishak, but he isn't Shoshenq. If Kitchen was right about his identification of Shishak, he should have been able to show other Egyptian synchronisms in the Bible. Instead, he relied on the synchronisms of the Assyrian accounts, which, unlike most of the ancient world, are not reliant upon the 4 pillars we are discussing in this video. The second thing is that he clearly added up the regnal dates for the pharaohs in order to reach 925 BC, working back from 664 BC without taking into consideration the archaeological evidence that doesn't support this. I have previously shown how to independently date Shoshenq I and place the start of his reign in 814 BC, showing that this fixed date in history is incorrect and that we have reason for the third intermediate period to be re-evaluated, which in turn would bring all ancient Egyptian dates forward in time. The next fixed date I want to look at is 1550 BC. I want to skip 1228 BC for now, as it's a lunar month calculation and is totally dependent on the 1550 BC date as an anchor point. So we'll deal with this first. 1550 BC is considered a pillar of Egyptian chronology because it is a Sophic date. I'll briefly explain what that is. The Egyptian calendar had 365 days with no leap year. The heliacal rising of the star Sirius was observed on the first day of the year in the Egyptian calendar. Without the inclusion of a leap year, this would mean that every 4 years the rising of Sirius would occur a day later in the Egyptian calendar, e.g. on the second day of the year. A Sophic year would then be a year where the rising of Sirius would be observed on the first day of the Egyptian calendar. This would happen every 1460 years. We know that 139 AD would have been considered a Sophic year, with Sirius rising on the first day of the Egyptian calendar year. The simple principle is that if we know on which day of the year in the Egyptian calendar that Sirius rose heliacally, we would be able to determine which year that was to plus or minus 3 years. This is how we got 1550 BC. In 1870, the Ebers calendar was found in Thebes, which appeared to give a Sophic date, which was dated to the 9th year of Amenhotep I of the 18th dynasty, which would then allow us to go back and date the beginning of the 18th dynasty to 1550 BC. Sophic dating has problems in general that I won't get into in this video, but concerning the Ebers calendar specifically, the Sophic date should be rejected. Scholars quite clearly ignored the ditto marks showing the document lists a Sophic date for every month of that year. This document wasn't referring to the rising of Sirius. The confusion in the reading of this document has led many Egyptologists to question its reliability. Professors Jürgen von Beckerath, Wolfgang Helck, Erich Hornung, Ulrich Luft, Winfried Barter and Jack Jansen. So this is the second pillar in Egyptian chronology with poor foundations. The final date we have to investigate is 1228 BC, which is a lunar month calculation. In the papyrus Leiden, which is dated to the 52nd year of Ramesses II, we have a series of lunar month lengths, a method of dating that is independent of any calendar and only dependent on the lunar cycle. So we'll either have 29 or 30-day months. In any year, this pattern of short and long lunar months repeats itself in a cycle of 25 years when the same pattern could be observed again. So they took the Sophic year of 1550 BC for the start of the 18th dynasty, which we now know is from an unreliable source, then added the regnal dates for all of the pharaohs from the 18th dynasty, which came to 250 years, and concluded that the start of the 19th dynasty must have been around 1300 BC. They then were able to match the lunar month pattern from the papyrus Leiden and found that the most sensible match was 1228 BC. It's important to understand that we trust all Egyptian ancient chronology based on the dating methods I've shown in this video, with only 664 BC having a solid foundation. If they had used other means to calibrate the papyrus Leiden, such as the Canimbre genealogy, which I did in a previous video, that places Ramesses II in the 10th century BC, we could have looked for a match of the lunar record to give an alternative date. This is exactly what W.A. Mitchell did. He used retro calculation of a lunar eclipse to date year 11 of Akhenaten to 1012 BC, then matched the lunar pattern to allow him to give a date for year 1 of Ramesses II of 943 BC. This date supports what we worked out from the Canimbre genealogy. So these are the 4 pillars of Egyptian chronology where we have no safe point other than 664 BC. Israelite history relies on the accuracy of Egyptian dating. So now you probably understand why so much of our past is in doubt. I'm not concerned with correcting these dates within academia, but you need to recognize these errors yourself or risk missing the evidence that our ancestors left in history. I'll just read Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. I do not think that this happened on purpose to hide the existence of the Israelites, but we should know how to correct the mistakes and uncover the evidence of our past and in the correct context. This video was the easiest way to show evidence of problems within the Egyptian chronology while supporting claims I've made in previous videos about the Amarna period or Avaris during the Middle Bronze Age 2B period during the 13th dynasty. I have a lot more evidence that I will hopefully bring out in the future, but as an introduction, I think that these videos get the point across well enough. In light of where I place the Israelites in history, I'd like to do videos on the Judges period, as we also have archaeological evidence that we can demonstrate there. Maybe I'll do that next time. All praises to the Most High.